Welcome to Digitally Insecure with Diane and Barbara. We are so excited to do this special launch today. It's really about providing education. We are going to have some specialized videos that focus on the tools that you can do in order to protect yourself. But a lot of the information we give is really about education. So here we go. Enjoy this path. Now, ironically enough, as we talk about path, this first segment is about Amazon Sidewalk. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. But in order to lead up to that, we're going to also talk about robots without legs that are really part of our lives. So we want to back up a minute here. We all love the idea of an easy life. The lull of robots doing our chores for us has long been a dream. But what is really the reality that we're living in today? Decisions have been made for us. And in the case of Amazon Sidewalk, you have to know about it and opt out because you've already opted in without your consent if you use their devices. So let's just take a little walk down this track and see where it takes us. All right, Diane, how you doing today?
Very good, Barbara. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So I'm going to pull up a few slides here and we're just going to kind of wander through and really talk about, again, robots without legs and breaching over into the artificial intelligence, the machine learning that goes on in order to drive AI, and the digital insecurity that it places us all in right now. So let's go ahead and look at this, if I can unlock this. And here we go. Okay, so the first one I wanted to start with here is the wonderful, beautiful, warm, fuzzy concept that having robots around us don't just help us physically, as we've seen with maybe manufacturing plants like the Tesla plants that is mostly automated, but it helps us emotionally as well. Diane, do you have any comments about bringing robots into our home for an educational or companionship role?
My thoughts are mixed, a mixed bag. I've seen many robots in my time, going to lots of security events. And, a lot of us are very familiar with the one that we might see at like Universal Studios or Disneyland. And, I've certainly seen them here in Silicon Valley. You might know the one more popular one called Pepper, which actually showed up on the front screen that you showed. Pepper's been known to help folks in a special needs capacity. And being someone that actually has families with special needs, when I first saw the robot, I was jazzed at, how it might be able to take some responsibilities off of me. However, being in security, there's always that concern that, someone can hack my robot and then have it do something else that I don't want it to do. So, there's always controversies in everything and vulnerabilities in everything that is digitally connected. And, because they are insecure, that's the reason that it's a mixed bag for me.
Excellent. And I love the concept of having a theme song in my life and having a robot follow me around and help with different items. But we're going to really explore today how much is too much. So the next section here that I wanted to look at is we talked about some other concept and usage of robots. There's a company based out of Mountain View that a few years ago got a massive contract to do parking lot surveillance, and they would really go through the parking lots and scan all the license plates of all the cars there. Now we know that garbage trucks also scan license plates, and it's used for surveillance. It's part of the puzzle pieces that tracks where people are and what their activities are. Here we've got, this is an article from 2015 where an entire hotel in Japan was run by robots. Now my best information has informed me that it unfortunately closed, and I don't know all the details on that. I really don't think it was because of cooties, because of the robots in the sanitary notion, but there's conversations around what works and what doesn't. Now here we have though, Sophia. Now Sophia made it really big also in 2015. This was a big year for AI, as we might remember, and she became a citizen. Do you remember much about Sophia, and did she make an impression on you at all?
I remember seeing her face, but I don't remember seeing her too much in too many things. So refresh me on what you saw her do. I did see something very similar um, to her being used in an application that was going to deliver customer service applications to us in a digitally way. But refresh me on her specific value add.
Yeah, so Sophia is made to be as human-like as possible. And an individual can stand in front of Sophia, the robot, and really not necessarily know that she's a robot, because the machine learning component that she has plugs into the artificial intelligence that is constantly learning and growing. So you can ask her endless questions. She tied into the internet. So it might be asking something like we now know, hey, Siri, and you can get an endless amount of information. Well, this is all tied in front of into her, along with endless ability of machine learning along the path.
Right.
Also,
Okay.
the
I can hook
yeah,
into that really
also,
fast.
yeah,
Yep.
and Sophia also has 63 different facial expressions. So not only can she pull in the information, she can use her what we call eyes and ears, which is really the cameras from the eyes, and the ears, the listening devices, to get your reaction, change her face shape around that to provide empathy in the conversation and help guide you down the next steps. What do you think about that kind of interaction?
Well, sometimes I ask myself, what's the purpose, right? Is, having somebody on the other end giving that empathy look gonna persuade me to do something next? I think it's just more entertaining than anything. But then, what if you have something like this? I mean, the controversies could go, right? What if you have something like this that could come on and speak to the elderly who are a very vulnerable um, y- you know, demographic in our world and could potentially be steered wrong because they might believe something like this so easily. Anything that says, becomes anything this intelligent, tapping into AI capabilities, might be seen as a very knowledge base. And then before you know it, you have people believing anything that it would say. So that would be my big concern with that. And of course, just the way it sort of manipulates people's way to think and ways to do, and maybe we don't want that.
You know what? That brings up a really good point, because we're all used to the robocalls or the scams that come in on the phones. And that would be really interesting. The more they get into a Sophia model for AI, then all of a sudden, when you go to hang up, instead of it just disconnecting, you hear, oh, wait, sorry, I dropped my phone, just a minute. And they can manipulate the situation. And you're right, if they're going after a more vulnerable demographic, they could take it that much further, that much faster.
Yeah, just like any other scam and security, right?
Interesting.
Any That's how I think, so of course there can be great applications that great companies will use for the good, but I always think about the digital insecurity of these types of things and the risks that they can pose. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind at the moment, but I'm sure there's much more to discuss there.
Interesting. Yeah, and I wanted to kind of bring us back kind of to our childhood, or even further back for many of the people listening today, really to the concept of the Jetsons, where we went into the future and we had this ideal situation where there was a robot in the household and things were automated and life was just smiles and easy. And that's not quite the world that we've found ourselves in right now, but it was an interesting pull to what the possibilities were. So one concept that I wanted to discuss with you quickly was Tesla's Sentry mode, and it turns your car into recording surveillance, a camera or device. However, the challenge is, this isn't just I go out and buy a car, I own a Tesla, and it's going to protect me or monitor me, and I'm giving away, I'm authorizing that. But this is also, Sentry mode is videotaping those around the car who did not buy the Tesla and who have not opted in to having their image grabbed. And obviously we know that if we're outside in the world, there are cameras everywhere. And by being outside, we automatically give our right to be photographed. It's just kind of the way the world is right now. But what do you feel about this level of surveillance?
Well, first of all, I don't think that we're giving anybody our right to be photographed or to be recorded. And this is the problem. It's an ethical problem. And I think that, these types of applications need to be considered very carefully before being implemented. And well, it might be a selling point that, Tesla might use it to protect your car, it's not cool that you would use this to potentially, see your surroundings. I mean, in some cases, yes, in some cases, no, right? I mean, if I was in a situation where my car got robbed or somebody got raped, I would love it if the car picked up the footage, right? It's just like, it's almost like one of those night scope robots that, towards the mall or towards the facilities is just kind of keeping a monitor on people to keep everything in check. I mean, it's nice to know that there might be something like that that's out there. But at the same time, the controversy is that we as citizens are not giving our, our authorization to be recorded this way, much like we wouldn't in a court of law. And, it's so funny because, oftentimes you think you want to go to a legal case and you want to use some great footage and you're told you can't because, it just, it's not cool, right? And, it wasn't, authorized properly, but yet we can do this in car public settings, and just so easily. I mean, what's the double standard here? I feel that, at what point are we going too far with some of these applications? And at what point do we stop invading people's privacy? So, there's those certain situations where I feel like it's nice to have from a protection standpoint, and like everyone, in a neighborhood might really, love it when somebody captures footage in their neighborhood, of something that went wrong. But when something doesn't go right, you know, and or they're feeling violated, then they don't like it, and they really often can't do anything about it if we let this go too far for too long. And so that's my concern about these types of applications, bringing surveillance too close to people to where they feel like they can't go anywhere now without being monitored or surveillanced. And what is that going to do to us as a society when we have too much of that? Are we going to reverse are we going to reverse all this greatness that we're trying to, carry forward about doing the right thing, about right people, right groups and such? And but when we put all these surveillance capabilities, it can work for them and it can work against them. And so that's the controversy, I think, here. And really the insecurity of the situation is that they can be manipulated just like anything else, right?
Exactly.
Anything that's connected can be manipulated to do something different, that something unexpected that you don't want
I,
it
I, I
to do.
like to say if it's man-made, it can be man unmade.
Yep.
But you've brought up some really good points. First of all, with the soft and cuddly and the Sophia model, it for demographics, it's maybe the elderly is one of them, but demographics specific, it can really cause make attack a vulnerable population is what it can do. And then here we've got an ethical question as well. Tesla as a company is taking away a choice from people who haven't even participated in their company. So with that, I want to jump into what we were talking about in the opener of the segment here, and I'll go back to that real quickly. Digital insecurity. Today we're looking at Amazon Sidewalk and other robots without legs. And what does that really mean? So let's take a peek here at Amazon Sidewalk. Now, Amazon Sidewalk is very interesting because what we've seen is companies will be so bold that they will they will make us agree to their terms and conditions and privacy options before we can participate in their products. But you and I both know that people don't have time to read those because it's so many pages, it's all language, and it changed and we have no control. You either use the product or you don't. So people just say yes and they never even click on it. But in this case, Amazon has automatically opted people in to a new product that we don't know anything about. They've given us marketing. At best, it's propaganda and asking maybe possible questions on, is it good for us, is it not? But they've only answered it in one direction to make it look like it's all a bed of roses. And we know that this is one of the companies who is maybe not as altruistic as we'd like it to be. So here we have Amazon Sidewalk and how to opt out. This article came out June 28th, 2021. It was created by Jason England, and this is on androidguys.com. And this one, I will leave the link below after this article for anybody who wants to go back to the details on this. But I think this is a really important pause point to talk about what this is, why this happened, any pros and any cons, and what we can look at from that. Diane, what comments do you have about Amazon Sidewalk?
Oh boy. My comments are this: it kind of came out of left field. I sort of heard it on the news, and it was so brief that I was like, what, what did I miss? Something about opt in or opt out, and it wasn't really explained that well. And I'm glad you bring it up because I really hadn't had a chance to go back about and look at this. But my impression is that, oh gosh, I don't have any information up in front of me, but my impression is that this, is a very controversial thing. It's a product that's going to basically connect you with your neighbors' Wi-Fi. Especially, I think it was pitched in such a way that, like, if you had, a very weak connection in your own home, that you could feasibly be connected to your neighbor. And then when your neighbor has a view into your traffic, that's a problem for me, right? That's a security, a digital insecurity issue that I think needs to get looked at very more closely. Additionally, I think there was some discussion on its connection with the tile components, and those tile components are, little square tiles that you might carry on a keychain so that you don't lose your keys, and or you might put them on your pets, and so if you lost your keys down the street, you might be able to better find them, especially if you're connected with your neighbors. And so, but somebody else can also find them, and or how many lost devices can be found. And so there was some controversy around that. And meanwhile, if you think about things just differently, how easy can this be if somebody put, like, a tile in your purse? Say a woman's walking with her big bag and somebody drops one of those in, and they want to all of a sudden start tracking a woman, and then before you know it, the neighborhood has a tracking on that woman too. And at what point does it become a stalking issue? And so there can be lots of different controversies. You can sort of open it up in so many different ways. And nobody has actually had the decision to be able to opt, out from the beginning. I think it was an opt-in initially, and you have to manually go in and opt out. And so that's a concern right there. We all love Amazon for what they've done. This is a company that is recognized so well for its support in the tech community, for where it's going in the future. But we just want them to think responsibly and with security in mind first as well too. And again, just kind of maybe have the citizens' Bill of Rights, which we don't really have yet today. And maybe that's where we go with this, but have folks think about citizens first and before they're implementing things, and make sure that the security is absolutely right. A lot of these applications, the biggest prone for attack and with hackers is now to look at the APIs and go very targeted against, folks that are on Amazon platforms. and they're going to look for, issues in APIs. They know we don't uh, keep good information and strategies around them to secure them, and there's lots of misconfigurations across AWS applications and instances, and orphan instances out there that all make things very prone to vulnerability for attack. And these are all things that have to be thought of as all of these various different creative, innovative applications start to roll out. So
Yeah, and I think you've got a whole slew of great points there. I'm going to pick up on this last one right now. Amazon is really in that low price leader niche, right? So an Amazon product is really meant to be the idea of, it's not about buying the hardware. The hardware is as absolutely cheap as they can make it, or inexpensive rather, as they can make it. However, and they'll even eat the cost of manufacturing in order to get in your hands, because it's the membership and the data that they're controlling that they're really after. And because of that, everybody in America has an opportunity to jump onto at least one Amazon type device because of the low price, and just pop it in their home and not even think about a security issue, more or less have the acumen to go in and know what to change. And the other point that you brought up here that I wanted to touch on, and we hadn't discussed this before, this is out of left field, but you had brought it up, that about 9 months ago, Amazon made this huge release that they were creating a drone that would go inside your home. And I know that we had covered that on some of the other technical channels that I do. It was called a Ring Always Home Camera, and it was like a cute little box, and it would lift out of the box. Their notion is, when you go to sleep at night, it would fly around your house and make sure you're safe. But the cameras are on. That's how it knows where it's going, and it's always recording. And what happens if somebody innocently just gets up and uses the restroom in the middle of the night? So there were a number of features, but the big thing is, it was a huge push. And again, it was about 9 months ago. So this would have been at their main launch, which I believe was right around end of October, beginning of November time period. And they were going to push it out in January, February of 2021. They were letting you know that you could make early orders, and here it goes. I haven't heard a word about it since. Have you?
no, I haven't been keeping up with it, but I did learn about this many years ago, actually, about the packaging that would drop, in front of your home, and those kinds of things.
Well,
And
yeah, but that is a little different, Diane. We talked about too the drones on the outside. This is actually a drone that flies around inside of your home.
oh gosh, no, gosh, no.
And so this took it
Yeah,
to
no,
the nth degree, and it went all the way against the wall about surveilling you inside your home. That meant it was always recording video and audio, and it would follow you around.
oh gosh, no, I strongly need to discourage this type of technology, actually. This would be for what purpose would this want to do that,
Well,
is
it's
my question.
it was really, so if we go back to maybe an elderly question, we love our parents so much, we don't want anything to happen to them. But what if they live by themselves? If you have a Ring Always at Home cam, then it would be there. And if somebody got up in the middle of the night and fell, or during the day they fell and they didn't get up, or they just yelled for help, then all of a sudden this camera would come to them, and then they could say, hey, please call my daughter, or please call 911, and it would provide that service. So there's a lot of different features. If somebody breaks into your home while you're sleeping, this Ring would notice that a window open, and it would go to the window, or would go to the door.
Oh, this is, to me, is
But
a
it's
violation of
chasing you
privacy.
as the homeowner too.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like this is just too much in violating people's privacy.
So
And yeah, and that it should not be allowed. There's no device, and believe me, there might have been, everybody's got to deal with elderly issues, right? Or the handicap or what have you at some point in their life. But a camera might be better. I mean, still that can be hacked, right? And we can be concerned about someone coming into that. But but a drone, it reminds me of just where I think the future is going with regard to, remember those, I've fallen and I can't get up,
Yes, yes.
medical alerts, right? And it's sort of the new wave of, of detection, fall detection, right? That can be used to monitor an elderly person, if you think about it. I kind of see where they're going with it, if that's what they were thinking. But I would be suspicious of anything lurking in my home, recording me. For what reason? You know what I mean? Like, not that we have anything to be worried about, but no. There's
Exactly.
nothing
No, it was a
that,
rampage I went on when I saw that come out. But here, while you were discussing that, just so that the viewers can see this, I went ahead and gave the overview of the core devices that Amazon has acknowledged. I doubt it's restricted only to this list, and you can definitely understand why we might have a little bit of reservation about allowing such a device, knowing some of the other products and some of the other relationships that Amazon has already shared with us. And then I also shared on the screen, if you have an Echo device or a Ring device, how you can go ahead and opt out of Sidewalk. And again, this is the one link that I will leave in the description below. So let's move on. There's a couple more that I wanted to look at. And one of them was, of course, in the news. So this was June 20th, 2021. This article is from Business Insider, and this was Tyler Sonamaker. And the title is Texas Power Companies Automatically Raise the Temperature of Customers' Smart Thermostats in the Middle of a Heat Wave. Any comments on this one?
yeah. How do we know it's the Texas Power? I mean, yeah, okay, so they might have been looking for larger bills, right? In hard times. That's a controversy right there. We thought that hackers would be the only ones that would want to manipulate these devices just for fun, but yeah, this is a reality, right? I mean, and then where does it stop? The next power company and the next bill on your list of all bills, and before you know it, everybody's creeping up into our wallets. I think, and how do we control this, right? It's not necessarily Nest's problem. Nest was acquired by Amazon, weren't they? Or is it Google? I forget now.
Nest is a Google product.
Is a Google product, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and they're a security company, so surely they're thinking about all these things, one would think. I'll tell you something, when I went from a smaller size house to a larger size house, the first thing that the city wanted to do is put a new smart meter on the house. And all of a sudden the bills were raised incredibly different. I could have thought that it could have been the LED lighting or something like that, but LED lighting should have brought me efficiencies. But I felt the bill effectively got larger the more I took on technology, and or the more that a power company gave technology to me unasked for, right? I would have been happy with the meter that I had before.
Mhm.
And so I was very suspicious of this sort of thing that kind of goes on, but what can you do? And so just bringing it up gives me pause, because it's just going to be one thing after another. And the concern for me here is that we get so connected now, in every home, so connected now, that we don't have the proper air gaps that we need to maybe to have us not be attacked. And so the more we get connected, the more concern it is for all of us, the more opportunity it is for lights to go down and out when the power companies go down and out too. And then it's just really more of a just chaos,
Exactly. And we all remember it was just a few months
right?
ago that
So definitely go ahead.
Yeah, it was just a few months ago that Texas had the huge snowstorm, right? And all the devastation of that. Now, if in fact they could have controlled the thermostats, why didn't they help people out then? And instead of over 24-hour period getting a 10 or $14,000 bill. So
Yeah.
what is the reach? Probably, I would assume that changes were implemented after that storm, lessons were learned. Probably Nest stepped up and said, oh, by the way, did you know that you can do this? They're testing it out. But if we don't have control over our own environment in our own home, how far down the path have we gone? So we've got about 10
Yes.
minutes left. I want to look at
Well,
another.
here's another
Go ahead.
thing. Here's another thing on that. Think about for a moment how sensitive it was for those trucks that were, caught in the snowstorms for some time and delayed actually getting the vaccines, the COVID vaccines to us because they had to keep them at a certain temperature. Can you imagine? I mean, if you had, a diabetic, you know, insulin that need to be kept at a certain temperature, and all of a sudden you have a situation where someone else is able to control the temperature of your home environment, thus and or your facility, thus with the power to really wipe out your supply, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's a personal stash of insulin that you have to keep your livelihood, or any other thing for that matter. That is really a digital insecurity that really concerns me.
Exactly. In addition to the digital insecurity here, again, we've got now about 9 minutes. So I want to spend a couple minutes here on Ring. So Ring, of course, is the doorbell that we can put on our front door. In fact, there were thousands of people that were actually given the Ring device to put on their front door. And the Ring will sense people walking on the sidewalk. And therefore, if you're walking on the sidewalk, the Ring doorbell might even ring audibly, and then you turn and look to see what it is, and now they have a facial scan. So you're now, for facial recognition, it's easier to start tracking who's walking and monitoring and gather that data. And yet we also know that Amazon had also announced that Ring had partnered with police departments in order to provide the data, it's why the devices were free. We're learning that if you're not paying for lunch, you are lunch. And in this case, if you didn't pay for the hardware, then it's your data being sold. And many have paid for the hardware, but irregardless, the data is being sold. And here we have an article from June 3rd. So this was a month ago, 2021. David Priest was the author, and this is from CNET talking on their home security section. And he's saying Ring will stop sending video requests from police to neighbors app users. That doesn't even make sense. So they're throwing in terms, and neighbors is capitalized. That's not, we can make assumptions on what it is, but let's read the next line here. It says, instead, police will be able to publicly post requests for assistance on the app. But that does not say, if we tie those together, we're going to think, oh, okay, Ring is no longer going to send video request. If the police say, hey, I want a copy of this, their Ring is not going to necessarily say, no, they have to request. That's not what this is. This is just, there's a neighbor's app out there that Ring has been sending the data feeds to, your private information. And they're going to pause that unless they get a request. They're still going to do it. It's just another formality. So they're still selling the data to surveillance organizations and to the police. What comments do you have about the safety of a Zoom doorbell system? This isn't even full home security. This is just a doorbell.
Well, again, the doorbell systems can be hacked. People are feeling insecure about the abilities to be monitored, right? But again, these devices also make us feel secure at the same time too, because we can see who's at the front door. We can have insights to what's happening in our neighborhoods, when a prowler's going around, and when somebody's in your neighborhood doing something with whatever, whatever method of operation they have to get into your cars, go into your homes. And it's nice to have these heads up. I know the police are on these applications because I see them come in and pipe in every once in a while. I like the heads up, but I don't necessarily like that. I guess I don't necessarily like to see the police on there like a lot, but at the same time, I do like to see that the police are doing something about it. So every once in a while, I might see a comment from a police officer in our neighborhood that they've, they're on it or something. But and so I think they're learning from the people of the crime that is happening in their particular neighborhoods and keeping a monitor on it. But when it comes to this headline right here, Ring will stop sending video requests from police to neighbors, app users. I'm not quite sure I understand what this is trying to say either. Instead, the police will be able to publicly post requests for assistance. Okay, that's great if they post for assistance. I think, it's better to have a lot of eyes and ears out there as the best neighborhood watch, and that's how this device can be used. But at the same time, you know, a person might wonder, that they feel this is too much security on themselves, just similar to the car, similar to the drone that we talked about, to the robot in your house, to the cell phone that's listening to you. It does pose a massive digital insecurity concern that I think the public is going to want to get their arms around. Right now, we're trying to do the great thing and securing these devices. We want folks to build security into these devices earlier on in the software development lifecycle. It has to get done, but it has to get done with ethics and good standards, and with the concept of people in mind, to not take us away from working with each other, but bringing us together in good ways. And, that's what I want folks to really be thinking about when it comes to all these applications.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just so much out there that's being chosen for us or coming into our lives, whether or not we're opting in. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today with at Digitally Insecure. And we're really here again to provide information and education. We're not here about fear mongering or taking you down a path of paranoia. But what we do want to do is kind of rope this in. Hey, by the way, did you know? And here's a solution is going to be the pathway of digital insecurity as we present upcoming episodes. So we went
Yeah.
over
The
some,
more people too,
uh-huh.
I wanted to say something, the more people and the more innovators that we have coming online and up, thinking in innovative ways of how to solve these problems early, within their applications as they're developing them, and they do it responsibly, the more those companies are really going to bolt into leading positions for that responsibility that they're taking at the start. We all love innovative technology and want to start using it, but we want to know that that seal of protection is there for us too. So, I look forward to, hearing more of some great startups that are just taking things to this next level.
Exactly. And we'll go through a startup model in another episode. But what you did point out too is more people need to come forward and really take a stance. And as we've seen in Europe, as an example, the GDPR regulations are much tighter, and many things that are being really taken advantage of us here in the United States are not allowed over there. And so there is a bar that we can reach, but it's just not, we don't have the legislation or the policy moving in the right direction quite yet, which we always know trails technology. But I just want to say that we're going to leave in the link below here the information on opting out of Amazon Sidewalk if you see that that might be an opportunity for you. And I'd also like to just kind of throw out there that if you don't need it, don't have it. And keep your children off the net on their own right now. It is a wild, wild west. We're going to go through a whole episode on how to protect them. But right now, be outside during the summer, enjoy people, enjoy the sunshine, and just move away from technology for a little while. And if you're one of those innovators building technology or software, if you don't need to gather the data, then do not gather it. You have no business picking up information that's going to lead to surveillance of other individuals, especially without disclosure and without properly protecting from hackers. So this has been Diane and Barbara here on Digitally Insecure. Hey, Diane, do you have any follow-up words that you want to round this out with?
I really don't. You said it all so perfectly, Barbara. I'm just so excited to be a part of this forum where we can start to bring knowledge to people and start to get their juices flowing and thinking. Where we go with this, we really don't know. Maybe, at some point, a citizen's bill of rights, or maybe companies and governments will start to do the right thing as they, think about every decision that they make. As we get smart in our cities, and as we get smart in our innovations, and as we get smart across our security. Thank you so much. I'm excited to bring more good content to folks, and happy to do it with you as well, Barbara. Thank you.
Absolutely, Diane. Thank you so much. So this has been Digitally Insecure, and we'll catch you on the next episode.